So many of us have realized that because of our sinful things, our sinful thought processes, that we talked about this before. Some people can't go to Stewart's. Why? Because Stewart's sells gambling tickets, right? They have lottery tickets. Some people say, I can't go to Stewart's. When they go buy stamps, they have to go buy them somewhere else, right? All of us need to understand that because we're sinful human beings, there's some things we can't do, and there's nothing wrong with going to Stewart's, okay? Stewart's is a perfectly fine store, and right over there. It's true. Some of my friends use their local Stewart's as their fridge. If they run out of something, they just go and get it there, you know? And nothing wrong with Stewart's. But some people can't handle it because of the tickets, right? That's them. And we have to understand. Some things will make us stupid. Do we let it happen? If this sin will make me stupid, I need to avoid that sin. Because as the alcoholics, once they take the first drink, they're gone. Their expression is, 1 is too many, 100 is not enough. Thirdly, Samson said the secret to his strength was his hair. And he begins, verse 13, once again he gets the same thing. And she used the same line that Samson's wife did. You mocked me, you don't love me, you won't tell me. In the first case, it was the story of the riddle, but now it's the same thing, right? Verse 15, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, not told me where your great strength is. Similar story to what happened with his wife. And similarly, we know from our perspective it's going to end badly. It came to pass when she pestered him daily, so he died of nagging. His soul was vexed to death, it says, that he told her all his heart and said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I've been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. Now, he's a guy, and once again, I put it in your notes there. Nazarite law said, what? Abstain from dead things, everything to do with grape and all other alcoholic things, and he has drinking parties with Philistine young men. He eats honey from a carcass of a dead animal, and I realized that was miraculous. Honeybees don't normally go into dead things, but he still didn't have to do it. So he broke his Nazarite thing by hanging out with by eating something from a dead thing, by hanging out with drunks and drinking with them, but he hadn't cut his hair. So, of course, I was teasing Pastor Happy a few months ago. Said, I try and avoid Michael's as a den of iniquity. He says, are you tempted by things that Michael says? No, but it's easier to avoid sins that you aren't tempted by, right? So I avoid Michael's the craft store because I'm not tempted by anything there, right? But anyway, it's easy to avoid some sins, right? Easy. So if I don't tempt it, I can avoid it very easily, right? But anyway, so many of us are selective in our obedience and say, oh, I'm a disciple of Jesus because I don't. Whatever, because I'm not tempted by that. But hey, and the other thing with this is that he thought, perhaps in his mind, that he could break this law too. And God finally said, enough. Let's not presume on God's grace and forgiveness, folks. If we know something's wrong, we better stop. We better stop pretty soon because we should not presume on God's grace. He tells us things, and he tells us things, and he tells us things. He sends people in our path to say, stop, stop, stop. He had broken every part of the Nazarite vow. And then he's willing to talk about this one. Now, verse 18. Verse 18. When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she went out and called for the lords of the Philistines. Come up once more, for he has told me all his heart. And she communicated this in such a way that this time they brought the cash. This time, she knew, was able to tell them that this was it. So instead of just putting in a loom, and once again, the loom showed that she was pretty wealthy. She had a loom in her house. That's like having a 3D printer. It's pretty high-tech equipment. equipment for that, very expensive. So she obviously had some wealth. So she has a loom in her house. She had knotted things in, didn't work, but this time she gets someone to cut his hair. Then she lulled him to sleep on her knees and called for a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And he said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And you know the rest of the story. He awoke from his sleep. He says, "I'll go out as before at other times and shake myself free." But he did not know the Lord had departed from him. And the haunting thing for us, folks, is what 1 Corinthians 9:27 says. "I discipline my body and keep it under subjection, lest after having preached to others, after said to other people, whether it's Good News Club, Sunday school, or other things, just one-on-one, saying, hey, this is how you should live, following Jesus. If after doing all these things, I myself should become disqualified or a castaway or no longer in a place of blessing because I could not control myself." You might say, yes, all of us sin. We understand that. Jesus paid. Jesus' grace is sufficient for all of our sin. But he does not want to be deceived. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, that will they also reap, right? Sowing and reaping. And as you know, we just leave one dandelion out front, and so often they are by by the walkways. We get a crop, and the crop is pretty massive. Sowing and reaping is usually a multiplier, although, yes, some of us have had crops that the deer have beaten up, so we plant more than we actually reap. But usually you expect a multiple, right? Do I learn from my mistakes? Or am I doing the same old sin, the same old way, as I did before, as my parents did, my grandparents did? Or am I asking God for help to break the cycle of sin and trouble? Am I swayed by sin or centered on Jesus? Who is motivating me? Is my eyes? And once again, people look and say, he threw away that for that? Weren't there just as pretty girls in Israel? Yeah, there probably were. But instead he had to chase after one and ruined his life. And next week we'll revisit Samson when he finally prays. Am I swayed by sin or centered on Jesus? Do I understand and prize my relationship with the Lord more than my relationship temporarily? Do I understand that, yes, God has a better way for me? And so often we may say, hey, look, that looks like so much fun. Yeah, it is. The first tequila, the second tequila, the third tequila, but the floor is not so much fun, right? The wages of sin is death. Jesus will save, he will restore, he will heal, but there are consequences here in this life. Samson and Delilah, what a sad, sad story. Don't be like Samson. But yet, sadly, you and I know so many people who had so many gifts, so much talent, so many great opportunities, and blew it. And we say, why? Well, don't be like them. Don't be like Samson. Let's keep looking at Jesus. Let's pray.